You know that feeling. You press record and suddenly your confidence disappears. You want to leverage video for visibility and authority, but you're constantly worried about sounding like you're reading or sounding robotic. Well, my friends, today we're solving that problem for you. Before we start, I know that you guys are very excited here in the chat already. Please drop in the chat the city where you are now because this session will be very special. Today we're diving into teleprompter mastery, the secret to looking polished and perfectly natural on camera, even when you're reading a script. We have a very special guest. We have a lot of viewers already with us. Hey Tony, hey Debbie, hey Alina. We're starting in a minute. And our speaker today, I'm very excited to introduce someone that you already know. She lived in the TV spotlight for over 2 decades, and now she teaches others how to own it. Emmy Award winning news anchor, on camera coach, Carrie Barrett. Carrie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And of course, thank you to everybody who is attending today. I've been looking in the chat. I see Johannesburg and Poland and Atlanta, and Floretta is saying she can't hear us. I'm not sure what that's, if she's having some issues.
I cannot repeat that intro, sorry.
But it's fantastic to have everybody here. And Bruno, of course, thank you for the introduction. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to chatting with everybody today. I will take it away.
Yeah.
As Bruno mentioned, my name is Carrie, and just for the record, I don't use a lot of slides when I speak. The reason is part of what I talk about is being able to communicate and deliver effectively, specifically on camera. Yes, sure, that applies to virtual presentations where you may have slides, but I find it's a lot easier and it's less prohibitive to be able to deliver directly to the camera without the slides. So hopefully you can tolerate looking at my mug for the next 20 or 30 minutes and drop your questions in the chat and we will take it from here. I'm going to start with a little story today that is a tiny bit cringe, and you may recognize yourself in it. I was working with, this is relatively recently, I was working with a absolutely brilliant entrepreneur, and he works in the wealth management space. His name is Theodore, runs a very successful firm. He's helped tons of individuals not only build their wealth, but also manage it so that they, feel comfortable when they retire and they know they're on the right path, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, Theodore is his name. That's what I'm going to call him anyway for the purposes of this call. So Theodore decided that he was going to record a professional bio video for his website, the one where you are introducing yourself and you're sharing your credentials and you're building that like no trust factor. And he had all of this mapped out absolutely perfectly on a teleprompter. Now, I don't know if he was using Big View, but he was using a teleprompter. All of his accomplishments, client results, years of experience. He hit record and I'm not kidding you. What came out of his mouth was absolutely not him. It was more like, hi, I'm Theodore and I have 15 years of experience in the wealth management space. Completely sounded like he was reading this script at gunpoint. Theodore is not stupid. Theo's not stupid. He is not inexperienced. He fell into a trap, though, that I see about 90% of business owners and entrepreneurs fall into when they first start using a teleprompter. And that is that they think the technology is a way to sort of put their brains on autopilot. And listen, this is not a judgment. I've been there myself. You assume that having that teleprompter is going to solve all of your on-camera problems, when really, if you don't know how to use a teleprompter, it magnifies that. So I'm guessing that there are a good number of you here who have recorded a video where you knew exactly what you wanted to say, but the moment you saw those words scrolling by, you turned into a robot, right? Have you been there? You can drop it in the chat if you had. I can feel the nods and I can see the cringy smiles. So as Bruno mentioned, I have a background in TV news. I spent 20 years as a news anchor, which means I literally made my living pretty much from reading teleprompters. This is a skill that paid my bills. This is a skill that won me a couple of Emmy Awards. And it's a skill that I learned through the process is not magic. It is a tool. And like any tool, it is only as good as the person who's using it. So today I'm going to teach you something that I call my teleprompter mastery method. And this is the very same system that I used when I was working on live TV, and the same system that I teach business owners and lawyers and realtors who want to create compelling, authentic video content without sounding like they're reading a script. Before we get to that, though, I do want to give you something that I created for you. It's a free teleprompter mastery mini course, and I believe Bruno has the link. Unfortunately, I'm not able to access putting information into the chat, but he's dropped it in the chat there for you. You can grab that. It's going to break down everything that we're talking about today into bite-sized lessons that you can implement immediately. It includes some script templates and some setup guides and some practice exercises. So go ahead and grab that now. Okay, I'll give you a second to at least click on the link and pull it up in one of your tabs. For those of you that have bigger goals around using video, if you want to grow your visibility, you want to grow your revenue, you want to position yourself, and I mean really leveraging your on-camera presence to build authority and attract premium clients, stick around to the end of this because I've created something that's special and it's just for you. So I'm going to give you the information on that at the end of this. Does that sound good? I hope it does, because we are about ready to jump in. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is really pillar number one, which is mastering a practice protocol. So the first pillar of teleprompter mastery, it's not about equipment. It's not about apps. I mean, I love Big View. It's why I partner with them. I use Big View all the time. But this part that I'm talking about now is not the tool itself. It's the preparation that goes into using the tool. And I don't mean the preparation that a lot of people do, which is basically reading through their script once and kind of hoping for the best. So this is where I'm going to give you a little more value than a lot of the teleprompter tutorials you may have looked at in the past, right? So as I mentioned, a lot of people think practice means you're reading through your script once and then you're hitting record. And for most people, that's not nearly enough, especially if the teleprompter is new for you. So there's a four-stage practice system that I developed during my news career. And I'm going to walk you through that fairly quickly. So the first is the familiarization read. And this is where you read your script out loud. Don't read it in your head. Read it out loud 3 times. Do not use a teleprompter here. This is just you. This is your script, and this is your voice. It's not about memorizing anything. It's about getting comfortable with the flow. It's about identifying tongue twisters. It's about understanding the sort of emotional arc that may be present in your content. So the first read of these 3, you're really just getting through it. You're noticing where you stumble, where the sentences feel a little awkward, where you naturally want to pause. Now, the second read of this is where you start adding your natural inflections. So where do you naturally emphasize words? Where does your voice rise, or where does your voice fall? And then the third read is where you really start feeling ownership of what it is you're saying. It's not just words on a page, or not on a page, but words on a screen, right? Anymore. This is actually your message. Now, the next stage in this 4-part process is the slow scroll. So this is where you're going to actually take those words and you're going to put it on your teleprompter, on your Big View, which I'm assuming you're using because it's awesome. And you're going to set the speed to about 50% of what feels natural. Most people speak at a rate of about 2 words a second. That varies obviously with pitch and pacing, but that's a good sort of rule of thumb as to where you need to place that scroll speed. And I want you to read through your script twice at that slow pace. And what it does is it trains your eyes to follow the text really smoothly, and it helps you resist the urge to race through all of that stuff. And here's why this matters. When you're nervous, especially if you're adjusting, if you're not using Big View and you're adjusting the speed of your prompter on your own, we have a tendency to speed up. If you practice at a normal speed, especially if you're doing a live event when you're using a teleprompter, you're probably going to race through the actual recording or the actual video that you're doing. So you're going to practice slowly and you're going to perform normally. And during these slow reads, I want you to be thinking about smooth eye movement. I don't want you to worry about energy. I don't want you to worry about emotion or any of that stuff yet. I just want you to get your eyes comfortable with following the scrolling text. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an analogy here. I do not read music, but I have been told that this is a good analogy. If you read music, if you play music, you know that in order for one note to flow smoothly to the next, you need to be reading the music a couple of notes ahead of what you're actually playing so that you create that through line. Using a teleprompter effectively is very similar to that. You're actually reading a few words ahead of what is coming out of your mouth. And that part trips a lot of people up. That part probably takes the most practice of anything. But what it does do is it allows you to create a continual thought. It allows you to flow just like you would in natural conversation from one word to the next, right? All right, so the next is stage 3, and this is what I call the energy injection. So you're going to read through that script on your prompter, and I want you to focus this time entirely on vocal variety and energy. You're going to speed up during the exciting parts. You're going to slow down when you need to emphasize something. You're going to pause for drama, all of that sort of stuff. The teleprompter is going to be your guide here, but your personality is going to be what drives the delivery. And this is where a lot of people get it backwards. They let the teleprompter control their energy instead of using it as a tool to support natural delivery. So I want you to practice emphasizing as you're going through this particular stage, emphasizing different words in the same sentence. So for example, I help business owners create video. I help business owners create video. I help business owners create video. That gives you an idea of what it is that I'm talking about, because each emphasis changes the meaning and it can change the energy completely. And then finally, stage 4 is the full rehearsal. You're going to put all of this together, natural speed, eye contact, breaks, vocal variety, all of the energy, all of the good stuff. And this is one that I want you to record. And I want you to watch it back. And you can record on your phone, you can record on your computer, whatever you're most comfortable with. That doesn't matter. This, though, is your dress rehearsal before the real thing. And I want you to watch for, are you looking at the camera during key moments? Does your energy match your message? Do you sound conversational? Do you sound robotic? You know, are there moments where you very much look like you're reading? Those are the things that you want to avoid. A little hint on how to avoid looking like you're reading. If you're focused right on the prompter and you're not moving your head very much and you're just going back and forth on the words, it's very clear to see your eyes moving back and forth. There's a way to disguise that. I mean, you can't get around your eyes reading the script, but there is a way to disguise that, and that's by using body language and facial expressions. When there is additional movement on the screen, kind of the way that I'm doing now with moving my head or blinking my eyes or looking away or using my hands, that creates visual interest in other areas on your screen. So it becomes less obvious that you are reading off of a teleprompter. All right, so the next portion of this, and Bruno, I'm sorry, I'm so focused on what I'm saying. I don't see any questions in the chat yet, but we can get to them at the end. Don't forget to drop them. All right, the next element is stamina builder. And here's something that very few people talk about. And I know this because I anchored hours upon hours upon hours daily sometimes of live TV coverage from a teleprompter. Reading from a prompter for longer than 5 minutes is mentally exhausting when you are starting out. I used to feel, even after half an hour, like I had had a workout. Your eyes get tired, your concentration wavers, your delivery suffers a little bit. So I want you to think about building something called your teleprompter stamina. And you're going to do this gradually. Don't aim to do it all at once. You'll get exhausted and you'll get overwhelmed and you'll get frustrated. But start with something very simple. Start with your 30-second scripts for, I don't know, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. 30-second scripts for a LinkedIn video, and then move into a 2-minute script, and then maybe a 5-minute script. And then if you're thinking about a video for YouTube, maybe have a 10-minute script or something even longer. Just like physical exercise, you need to build up that mental endurance for that longer content. I've worked with clients who could absolutely nail a 3-minute video, but totally fell apart at like minute 8. Eyes would glaze over, all that stuff, right? So practice in chunks is what I'm getting to. If you're creating what you think is going to be a 15-minute video training for a course that you're putting together, practice it in 3 5-minute segments until they're good. And then you can string it all together. Now, if you are doing a live event, hello, that's us today, you should have some sort of backup plan. So technology fails, apps crash, devices freeze. Know your content well enough that if your teleprompter dies during your live event, and this is when that particular challenge is most important, if it dies during a recording, you can always re-record it. But you should be able to finish your key points from memory, right? Not memorizing everything necessarily word for word, but knowing your main points, knowing your transitions, certainly knowing your call to action. I've seen a lot of people, and frankly have experienced falling apart entirely myself when a teleprompter glitches or when technology glitches. The pros, they smile, they take a breath, they throw out a transition sentence that they have in their back pocket, and they keep going. So one of the things that you can do as you're putting together this emergency backup plan is create some backup content bullets. Maybe it's 3 to 5 key points that you can deliver without a prompter. Your main message, your biggest benefit, your proof point or your story, your call to action, and then your contact information, right? So all of that I just went through, that's pillar 1. That's your preparation. The second pillar, and there are 3, is writing scripts that sound human. Okay, so that means writing for the ear and not the eye. And this is key. This is where that client that I mentioned, Theo, this is a big part of where he went wrong. He wrote that bio like it was going on LinkedIn, or that it was a text bio. It was very formal. It was very credential heavy. It was very corporate-y. Perfect for reading silently with your eyes. Terrible, absolutely dreadful for speaking out loud. You cannot write for a teleprompter the same way that you write an email or a blog post. The moment you try, you are going to sound like a virtual white paper, like you are reading somebody else's stuff. It's the difference between, I use a lot of news analogies. It's the difference between a news story that's written for a newspaper versus the same news story that's written for television, right? Which there's a video component. Obviously, you're delivering it for the ear because people are listening. So before you write a single word of a script for a teleprompter, I want you to grab your phone. I want you to hit voice memo and then explain your topic like you're talking to your favorite client or your best friend over coffee. I don't want you to think about structure. I don't want you to think about being perfect. I just want you to talk, So here's what I've been thinking about your marketing strategy, or what's been frustrating about this industry lately, things like that. And then take that recording, and AI makes this very easy to do, and transcribe it. That is your starting point. That's your natural voice. It's your authentic tone. It's your real personality. Most people do the opposite. They sit down with a blank document and they try to write themselves into sounding professional. Instead, you want to talk yourself into writing naturally, if that makes sense. When you're writing for teleprompters, shorter sentences are not just easier to read and deliver, they're easier to deliver with energy and conviction. So instead of Something along the lines of our comprehensive digital marketing strategy incorporates multiple touch points across various platforms to maximize engagement and conversion rates while maintaining brand consistency. Let's add throughout the customer journey on for good measure, right? That reads on paper nicely, but it is a mouthful to try and say and keep people's attention. So instead, the way that you might change that sentence for a teleprompter, again, for a script that you're delivering verbally, is our marketing strategy hits your customers wherever they hang out. Facebook, Instagram, email, website. Each touch point builds trust. Each interaction moves them closer to buying. Do you see the difference between those two? The second version has the same information, but it is broken into bite-sized thoughts that are easy to deliver. Each sentence has its own energy. Each sentence has its own purpose. Now, there's something that goes along with that I learned the hard way in the news business. If you cannot pronounce something confidently, I want you to spell it out phonetically. Doesn't matter if it's a client's name, if it's a technical term, or if it's your company's own product. I have had clients who are so terrified of video, they have, I swear on my life, mispronounced their own name. If there is a 10% chance that you are going to stumble over it, write it out the way it sounds like you. So entrepreneurial becomes ONTREP dash RENUREALL. EEAL. You get what I'm saying, right? Teleprompter is spelled TELEPROMPTER. If you're going to mispronounce it, TELLEH, prompt, and then ER, right? Fiduciary, you get it. I won't belabor this, but it doesn't matter when you're writing it out phonetically if it is the official correct pronunciation guide. It only matters that you are the one who understands it in that particular moment. And speaking of moments, this is a trick also for my news days that's going to change a lot for you. I want you to mark your script for emphasis and pauses. So that way, as you're reading, even if you get lost in the words or you lose your train of thought, which until you develop these skills, there's a real good chance that's going to happen to you. So if you have visual cues on your script, it allows you to deliver effectively and compellingly, even if you're lost in the words. I hope that makes sense. So an example of that would be to use all caps or to use asterisks around words that you want to emphasize. Use an ellipsis where you want to pause. You might even want to give yourself stage cues. So, for stage directions like smile or lean forward or an aside, right? You can put that sort of stuff in brackets so that it's visually cueing you that this is something you need to do on screen as you are reading it. So when you're marking your script, think about it as not just writing words, but you're sort of choreographing your delivery is probably the easiest way to put it. Okay. The next element is your read aloud reality check. And I talked a little bit about this at the beginning. Never put anything on a prompter that you haven't read out loud at least 3 times. I do not care how simple it seems. If you wrote it yourself, read it out loud anyway, because your brain processes written words differently than it does spoken words. So something that looks perfect on paper might be a tongue twister when you're actually speaking it. And it's only by reading it out loud that you will discover those sticky little points in your script. And then finally, something that I call the authenticity hack. And this is sort of the secret sauce. Write like you talk, not like you think you should sound. So use contractions. Say don't instead of do not. Use simple words. Say help instead of facilitate, or use instead of utilize. I was working with a client on that exact one yesterday. Use your natural expressions. If you say, holy hell, in real life, think about maybe not, well, maybe you don't want to say that on a video, but oh my goodness, is probably not going to come out of your mouth authentically. Your audience, and this is key, is not hiring a robot. They're not watching a robot. They're watching and hopefully hiring you. And the more your script sounds like the real you having a real conversation, the easier it's going to be for them to connect with your message. All right, and then the final pillar here is mastering the invisible art. And this is the hardest part. This is the part that's all about reading from a teleprompter without looking like you're reading from a teleprompter. This is the thing that separates the amateurs from the pros. Anybody can write a script, but if you're able to make it look natural and conversational and authentic, that takes real skill, and there is an art to it, right? The better you know your script, the less you're going to depend on a teleprompter. And I know that sounds a little bit backwards. Why would you use a teleprompter if you're going to know your script word for word? You're not going to know your script for word, but a teleprompter is, many of us use it as a crutch. Really, what it should be for you is a safety net. It is there so that you don't have to worry about forgetting key points. It is there so that if you're recording a quick video, you can do it in hopefully 1 or 2 takes rather than 15. But especially if you're doing a live event or a webinar or some sort of virtual presentation, you should know your material well enough that if something happened, you could keep going. So the teleprompter is best serving you as a guide, not necessarily a lifeline. All right. And then, oh, I need my lifeline out. Eye movement giveaway. All right. So we talked a little bit about this. The fastest way to spot somebody reading from a teleprompter is watching their eyes, right? Are their eyes going back and forth? Are they darting back and forth like they're reading or watching a tennis match, right? So there's a couple of ways to fix it. I jumped into one of them, which is make sure you have enough movement of your face on screen so that you cover up the movement of your eyes as much as you can. There are some other elements, though, that will make it a little bit easier for you to, again, disguise the fact that you're using a teleprompter. So the first is to make sure that your text is formatted properly. You're looking at somewhere about 3 to 5 words a line, large font, high contrast. Big View will do that automatically for you. It's white font. If you're on your phone, it is white font on a black background if you're on your computer, right? So it does that very nicely for you already. But in terms of the number of words on each line, if your eyes are going back and forth because you're reading 10 words on each line, it's going to show. Second is you want to use your peripheral vision. You're not focusing on individual words. Your eyes are taking in almost entire phrases at a time. And then the third element is to practice what I call the anchor look. And this is something I obviously learned as a news anchor. Every couple of seconds, you want to look right at the lens, right? Not necessarily at the prompter. And what that does is it allows you to create that illusion of really natural eye contact even when you're reading, and when you're reading like slightly below where your camera is, right? If you use Big View, for example, on your phone, which is how I most often use it, the words, depending on whether you have an iPhone or an Android, it changes where they show up on the screen, but they're obviously not showing up over the camera. They're showing up right below or right next to the camera. So every now and then glancing away and then glancing back and delivering right into the camera because you already have a phrase that's ready to go. Is that making sense? I hope it does. All right. And finally, the rhythm trap. This is the biggest mistake that I see people making with teleprompters. They let the scroll speed control their delivery instead of the other way around. And they start reading in this sort of weird, monotonous kind of rhythm that matches the scrolling text. And it can sound a little bit robotic and it can put audiences to sleep. Instead, as I mentioned before, and I'm going to underscore what I said, is that you need to read the teleprompter almost like sheet music, right? A musician doesn't play every note with the same emphasis just because they're all written on the same page. They add dynamics, they speed up, they slow down, they pause for dramatic effect. Your script is basically the same, right? It's bringing you from the beginning of the song to the end. There are some words that deserve emphasis. There are some phrases that need a pause after them. There are certain sections that need to be delivered with more energy, okay? How do you recover though when things go wrong? As I mentioned, teleprompter glitches, you lose your place, you stumble over a word. If you are new to the teleprompter, if you're a teleprompter amateur, there's probably a little bit of panic that goes along with that. You would stop probably and you would apologize and maybe stumble all over yourself apologizing. The pros keep going because the audience has no idea what's supposed to happen. If you stumble over a word, and I've stumbled over a few of them today, I lost my train of thought for a second, right? Pause, smile, pick back up where you left off. The confidence is not about being perfect. It's about being unshakable when things are not perfect, right? That is really where the connection comes in. Here is the final piece. And this is the one, and I've touched on this a couple of times today, but your personality has got to come through the teleprompter, right? It can't come through despite the teleprompter. It has to be part of your delivery through the teleprompter. A lot of times you'll find, and this will happen as you practice, the teleprompter puts a level of formality, or people feel like it puts a level of formality in front of them. So they become more formal. They become this sort of corporate buttoned up version of themselves. That is not what you should do. That is backwards. The teleprompter should actually free you up to be more of yourself, not less, because you're not worried about forgetting your points. You're not worried about forgetting what comes next. You can focus on the delivery. You can add the gestures. You can smile more naturally. You can let your authentic personality shine through, right? So those are the three pillars of really delivering from a teleprompter. It's practicing, it's script writing, and it's invisible delivery. And when you master all of those things, you are going to be, trust me when I tell you, light years ahead of where most business owners are in terms of trying to create video content. There is something that's important to understand though. Teleprompter skills are the very beginning, right? You can have an absolutely flawless delivery from a teleprompter, but if you are, slouching or you look like a deer in the headlights, none of that's going to matter. The teleprompter solves a very specific problem. It solves the what to say problem. It doesn't solve necessarily, or very often anyway, the how to show up with authority and sound confident problem. And I'm going to share a solution for that with you in just a second. But first, I think that we have some questions in the comments. We've covered a ton. I know that you probably have your own specific hurdles. So if there is a challenge or a frustration that you have when it comes to using your teleprompter effectively, and it could be anything, technical, lighting, background, what to wear, reading from a teleprompter or writing for a teleprompter, building confidence enough to hit record in the first place, right? This is where I want you to ask those questions and troubleshoot some of the challenges together. And if there's takeaways or aha moments that you've had, I'd love you to share them as well. So I'll turn it over to Bruno. Have you been monitoring the questions?
I actually
Okay.
have, before asking the questions that the audience left in the chat, I had one question from you, Carrie, because you probably had clients with this issue as well. I have seen many users creating videos in a teleprompter, just staring the camera and not blinking at all. So they start kind of crying because they're not blinking for, I don't know, a minute.
Your
What
eyes
would
are
you
watering.
recommend?
Yeah.
How often should they blink, or should they worry about that? Is this
Yeah.
important?
Okay, such a good point. I mean, yes, if it's getting in the way of what you're saying and it's distracting, then yes, you need to worry about it. It's sort of like the way I advise clients on removing filler words, like, those sorts of things. Having a few of them is not a deal breaker. If it gets to the point where it's distracting, then it's a problem. The easiest way to know if it's distracting is have somebody else watch it. We're our own worst enemy. We run ourselves through the ringer when we watch. I mean, I've been doing this now for 25 years. I still can't stand watching myself on camera. So if I really want to critique something, I mean, I know how to do it myself, but I'll ask somebody who's maybe not as harsh as I am to review it for me. So record yourself and ask somebody what they think. There is really two things that happen in terms of blinking your eyes. Number one, you see somebody who's blinking so often because they're nervous. Sometimes you'll see somebody close their eyes and talk this way because they don't want to face what they're actually doing. And that's sort of an adjacent issue. And then you have what you spoke about, which is people who are afraid to blink because if they're using a teleprompter, they're afraid if they blink, they're going to lose the words, right? And it's called the teleprompter stare. There's a name for it. I've experienced it when I was working in the news industry. So there's no magic wand. A big part of the fix for that particular challenge is going to come from just getting comfortable in front of the teleprompter. Like the reason that you're either not blinking or blinking a lot is because you're nervous. And the only way to get through nerves is to build the skills and then do the thing. And when you get more comfortable doing the thing, that problem is going to go away. If you focus so heavily as you're recording a video or you're doing an event and you're like, I must blink, what happens is, sure, you'll blink, but the rest of your delivery will become stilted because you're thinking about that one thing. And that's not the right solution. The solution is, I hate to say it, like with anything else, it's getting comfortable with the skill and building on it. It's practice.
Makes sense. Now going to the questions from the audience. You
Okay.
kind of gave some information, some insights on this question. Just wanted to see if you have more insights on the way that you create the script, the structure, the brackets that you mentioned, the tone, the emotion that you use, the position. Any other insights here?
In terms of tone, or
when you're writing the teleprompter, like you mentioned, writing on brackets, like on this part, I'm going to smile. On
yeah.
this specific part, I'm going to do that. Or using
Mhm.
different signs on the script to deliver in a better way.
Yes. And so what else can you do? Is that, sorry, I'm being dense right now. Is that your question?
Yes, that's the question.
Okay. Got it. So again, writing a script, we have a tendency, as I mentioned earlier in the talk, we have a tendency to write a script that almost reads as if it is a white paper. We think of video as a virtual white paper. And so we have to it's an entirely different style of writing than most people are used to. It's called broadcast style writing. It's something I learned when I was getting my broadcasting master's degree, and then of course refined through the process of my time in the newsroom. What I would say is this: when you are recording a video, the easiest way to figure out where those natural moments are is to turn on your phone, sort of put it in your peripheral, and then talk to someone. Your business partner, your spouse, your best friend, if you have a particularly helpful client who would be willing to work through this particular process with you, and just talk to them, and then go back and be very intentional in picking out the moments. This sounds like a lot of work. You're not going to have to do this all the time, but to get to where you want to go, there's a heavy lift up front, heavy-ish lift up front. So be aware, you're not going to have to do this all the time. I would say do this with like 5 videos and understand where you naturally slow down and where you naturally speed up and what words you naturally emphasize, and then transcribe that script or whatever you said, using your notes app or chat GPT or Otter or whatever it is, Fathom, and then copy and paste that script into a document and go ahead and mark that script exactly as you spoke it. Where did you slow down? ... I mean, those are the classic news script markers. Is the ellipsis, it's the asterisk when something is important, and it's the visual cues, lean forward, smile, whatever. You could even, if you have a paper script, do a smiley face on it. I don't want you to overcomplicate it though. There's really not much more to it than that. It's just a matter of becoming aware. So much in terms of your on-camera communication is becoming aware of your natural cadence, and then amplifying the things that you do really well, tamping down on the things that maybe are not your strong spot, and then replicating your natural conversation with a little bit of polish on camera.
It is interesting because it's the first time that I hear this question.
Mm-hmm.
Should I do push-ups or jumping jacks before hitting record? Any tips on how to be more alive?
Oh, I've heard that question before. I've heard that question a lot. If you're nervous and so it's hard to tell by that question if that person is nervous. So 1,000 life lessons, if 1,000 life lessons and everybody else is nervous before they're recording and they're looking to burn off a little bit of energy, or if they're looking to boost their energy so they come across as a little more energetic. I would say there's really two. If you are looking to pump yourself up because you're worried about not having enough energy, then absolutely push-ups, jumping jacks, even like crunches are a great way to boost your energy and also tamp down a little bit on some of the nervousness. If you are nervous, I would suggest doing something else instead. For example, I almost stood up and did a demonstration, but I'm not going to do that. I would jump up and shake your hands out. There's a reason that, if anybody's familiar with like energy work, right? If you've ever had a Reiki session, for example, right? They'll pull their hands off of your hands and shake the energy out. We release energy, nervous energy, through our limbs. So shaking is the reason people do that when they're gearing up for something or they're trying to get rid of. You see an athlete doing that before their event, right? It's because it shakes out the nervous energy. So there's really like two different strategies. One, if you're looking to bump up your energy, and one, if you're looking to calm yourself down. I will say this, and I won't try not to belabor the answer here, but for most people, the camera is energetically flattening, meaning even if you're nervous, there's a real good chance, unless you're speed reading or blinking your eyes a million miles an hour, there's a really good chance that you're not going to look as energetic as you feel on camera. The reason the camera is energetically flattening is like fourfold. I mean, you've got hardware and software, and you've got no context, and you've taken a 3D person and put them into like a 2D environment. And so for most people, being on camera requires them to boost their energy, usually fairly significantly. So if you're nervous, feel free to shake out the nerves, but try and use it to your benefit, because you're going to have some extra energy there that's probably going to translate on camera pretty darn well.
Yeah, I think that answers the question.
I hope it does.
I wanted to also mention to the users that, not sure if they're users already of BigView, but if you're having any issues with the app, just send a message support@bigview.tv. And if you're concerned about if the app is working and it would work for you, for all of you, you would have 30 days money back guarantee. So if you start a subscription today, you have 30 days to really make sure the app will help you deliver and create more content using a teleprompter. I do have a question. We had a question about lighting.
Yes.
On the glasses again, reflecting on the glasses. We already have the question, so this is very relevant to, I would say, most users.
Absolutely. And I mean, you can see I wear glasses, and if I move my head in the right way, you're catching some of my lights. So Mary, very good question. And in fact, I was on a client call with one of my clients who's creating a video course, and we were having that discussion as we were sort of location scouting around his office. So really, aside from doing things like putting an anti-reflection coating on your glasses, avoiding or reducing glare is really about geometry. And what I mean by that, it's like the angles of your light. So for example, having a light directly in front of you, it's going to be real hard to get around having glare in your glasses. What I like to do is, I mean, when I'm positioned in the way that I am now and I don't have my head up, there is very little glare in my glasses. You might catch it here or there when I move in a specific way or in a specific direction. But the reason for that is the way that I've positioned my lights. So my lights, and I have 3 of them, I have what's called a softbox light in front of me. That is a diffuse light that is provides a full light for your face. I have that in front of me and slightly above and tilted toward me a little bit, right? And then I have 2 what are called tube lights. Those are at a 45-degree angle in front of me, and they're also slightly, they're above my face level, above where my face is, but they're slightly tilted down. So I get a soft, full light all around me, but I don't have lights that are going directly into my glasses and therefore seeing the reflection. So again, all your lights should be slightly above your face level and tilted down just a little bit. I hope that's helpful. That's the easiest way to get around it. It's not perfect, but it's the best solution out there.
We have one question that's not necessarily about the teleprompter, but how to look good on camera, like the best close-ends, colors, background lighting, background replacement. We also mentioned this in the last session. So thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So color is, and what you should wear is one of the most common questions that I got. And actually I did mention, I want to make sure I have a chance. I have a course that I've put together specifically for this group that goes into on-camera delivery. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. And Bruno can put the link up in the chat in just a second. But to answer this question right now, there's 2 colors that you should probably avoid entirely when you're on camera. The first is white and the first is black. Even when I was in a professional environment in a news studio, we were advised to avoid those colors. If you are in a situation where your lighting is not pristine, and that is usually the case with in-office or in-home studios, unless you've had somebody come in and strung up lights from your ceiling and everywhere else, you're not going to have a professionally lit studio. I don't have a professionally lit studio. So if I'm going to be in an environment where I don't know what the lighting is, black and white are out. Right? I wear them occasionally if you watch my videos on LinkedIn or YouTube, you might see me wearing white or black, but that's because I know my lighting well enough and I've been in this exact spot for 6 years now. You avoid black, white. There is one brand colors are great as long as there's a little bit of contrast with the background behind you. If your brand color is gray and you're sitting in front of a gray wall, don't do that. Blue is universally flattering. Blue is a great color psychologically for most audiences. It is a color that aligns itself with trust. It aligns itself with wealth. It aligns itself with stability. So for most people, there's a psychological factor that goes into how we perceive somebody who's wearing blue. Blue also has the benefit of being universally flattering. I guarantee there is a shade of blue out there that looks good on you. So if you're ever in doubt with what to wear, I'm wearing blue today, wear blue. In terms of background lighting, so never sit with the brightest light source behind you. In fact, I have my shade down on this particular window now because at this time of day, the light comes in that window. And despite the fact that I am sitting in front of 3 lights right now, that light is still very bright. So that's why I have it covered up. I like to add, and you can do this, and heck, if you're interested, I'm more than I'm going to put a link up for some calls as well. So if you want to walk through your background on a call with me, I'm more than happy to do that. So I'll give you an example. I have this little corner in my window, and I have on this side of my wall, like this shiplap. Don't judge me. I know it's, I think, dated at this point, but it's dark wood. And I have this in person, looks quite a bit lighter blue. And then I've got this little olive tree thing back there. When I don't have this light, this corner looks like a black cave. There is like, sucks the light in, and it is, I see it over my shoulder and it drives me insane. So I have a little two light rig that I bought on Amazon for $30, and I have it lit back there. Really, ideally, you have some sort of light that gives your space a little bit of depth. If you are up against a wall because you don't have a lot of space to work with, you don't really need to worry about lighting. But if you have room with a little bit of depth behind you, I would try and put some light in some of the corners so that you create a little more dimension. The purpose of, if you're not familiar, some of the things that we're talking about here in terms of what you wear and what your lighting is like and what your background is like, it can seem like it's sort of superficial. It's not, hands down, outside of probably eye contact and what do I do with my hands? These are the questions I get most often. And it is aesthetics, but it's aesthetics with a purpose. You want some visual interest behind you, but you don't want anything distracting. And you want your setup to be something that, you know, especially if you're in a space that requires a lot of trust, realtors, lawyers, wealth management, etc. You want a space that inspires authority and credibility. And that's what the goal of setting up your background is all about. I hope that was helpful. Without seeing your background, it can be hard to give specific advice on what your lighting should look like, but hopefully that gives you a little space. And I see a question from real estate buy and sell, I think stress-free. Yes, my current background is real.
Amazing, amazing. And we're almost at the end of this session. Before we have a few things still to share with you, with the audience. And I was not supposed to say this today, but we already have our Black Friday deal available. So that's why I'm only mentioning now. We're still with us for more than 50 minutes. If you want to know more about it, just send me an email. It's not officially out yet, so just send me a message. And Carrie, I know that you have a few things to share with them. Right?
I do. Absolutely. And I appreciate that. And Bruno, you have the link. So I'll call for them if you want to put them in the chat. For some reason, I can't seem to access putting comments in. But yeah, before we wrap up, I do want to share something with the audience. If you have been sitting here and thinking, yeah, this is me, I can read from a teleprompter now, or at least I know how to get started, but there's still a gap between, you know, the expert that you know that you are and the person that you come across as on screen, I would like to help you close that gap, right? As you know, and that's why you're here, video is not going away. If you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, being on camera and that the skills and the confidence and the presence and the camera awareness, that's where you build trust in the digital world, which sounds tired in today's digital era, but that's where we are. If you want to know how to use those skills to demonstrate expertise and create connection that turns viewers into clients, I created a little something for just this group, and it's called the Camera Ready Confidence Course, Look, Sound, and Feel Like a Pro. And it is a complete system for transforming how you show up on video. And this is whether you are using a teleprompter or not, but it's the exact method that I have used with C-suite executives and attorneys and entrepreneurs and business owners and coaches and doctors and all the different people that I work with. It's the system that I use to teach them to communicate easily, effectively, and compellingly every time they're in front of the camera, whether it is for a video podcast or a client pitch or a media appearance or a sales and marketing video. So in this program, we start with mindset, right? The things and the techniques that will make confidence radiate through the camera. We talk about vocal strategies that will help you command attention, physical presence secrets that establish instant authority. I am going to be selling this course online. It's priced at $397, but I did promise you, if you stuck around to the end and you're serious about improving your video skills, I'm going to offer it for a different price today. I'm going to offer it for $247. It's $150 off. I'm not going to have that going for long, though. I'm going to have it expire at midnight Eastern time. So I know we've got people joining us from all over. If Bruno could put the course link up in the chat, it's the Camera Ready Confidence. There's the discount code that I've created just for you guys. It's on camera, all caps, all one word. And there is a place to plug that in to the purchase screen. And if you are interested in really up-leveling and closing that gap between who you are and how you appear on camera, this is the place to do it. And then finally, if you do want to explore more support, if you'd like to talk about how I can help you one-on-one, or you're interested in group coaching, you can book an on-camera authority assessment. That is on my Calendly link, and you can put, Bruno, if you don't mind putting that in the chat as well. So final wrap up, I appreciate all the time that you've spent with me, regardless of whether you join the course or you book time with me or not. I hope that you got something out of what we practiced and worked on today. So follow that 4-stage system, build your stamina gradually, always have a backup plan. Write for the ear, not for the eye. Talk first, transcribe, and then know your material, right? You master this stuff and you are never again going to sound like you're reading somebody else's script. So with that, I will turn it back over to Bruno, and I will just say thank you so much for showing up today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And I'd love to see you go create something amazing on camera.
Amazing. And before I let you go, Carrie, before we let you go, I just have one final question, because we're already in November. Do you think that we still have time to start this year, or should we wait until January? Like, oh, I can start next year. What do you think?
Why put off till tomorrow what you can do today? Like, that's not going to get you anywhere. No, absolutely. You have time. I would jump in sooner rather than later. You know, you have some skills or some at least practice knowledge that you've gained, hopefully over the course of the past hour, and put it to use. Like, go create something. And heck, if you're on LinkedIn or on Instagram or wherever, tag me, because I'd love to support you and help you grow from there. No, start now, my friend.
Yeah, so we need to start as soon as possible. Now you have the knowledge, you have the tool, you just need to get started. Yep. The links are in the chat to get the session with Carrie, to get the course. And if you mail me, you get that deal. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much, Carrie, for all the valuable insights. And I hope that we can do something again in the future. Thank you so much. I
love this audience. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
With the Big View Teleprompter, create videos you're proud of. Easily trim your video by selecting the words where you want to start and end. Color your presentation with automatic subtitles and highlighting keywords. Add your brand logo. Add music for an emotional touch. Add your contact info on an animated business card on all your videos. Easily replace green screen with an image or a video loop. Stand out with a web page with your logo, your video at the center, and personalized button for visitors to interact. It's one tap to simultaneously upload your videos on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Always know what to